Welcome to Lacekickz.
Welcome to Dr. Lacekickz podcast. Enjoy the show and thank you for the support.
All right. You go first, John.
Oh, sorry. So I'm John Ratner. I'm from Toronto, Canada. I have a podcast of my own. It's called SNEAKERDADS, and some of you guys might listen to it, but my Instagram account is HEADZAINTTREDEE. But as far as my content creation, it's mostly on SNEAKERDADS, the Instagram page and the podcast. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to join you. I've been following you for a long time and love what you're doing.
Thank you.
What's up, everybody? Andrew Kahn, Acon1s on Instagram, founder of the Great Ones, little clothing brand from Barrie, Ontario, Canada, just north of John. Sneaker aficionado and shit talker. Thanks for having me on, brother. Hello, Australia. Nice to see you again, sort of. Hope everybody's staying safe.
Hello, Australia. Welcome to the show of Kickz and Soul. I've got my family over here from Canada. And yes, hopefully enjoy the show and for the future. So I got a question, guys. How's the sneaker game going over there in Canada?
Steady. Still steady. It seems like the launches are ramping up, but not seeing it much in store. I mean, it seems like a few things are popping up in store, but it's definitely not the same. I think the whole game has evolved now.
Yes.
To be honest with you.
Yeah, and I imagine it's not completely unlike Australia in terms of the government and lockdowns. Pretty strict here, especially these days. So I think it's affected the retail landscape. I mean, it's affected the retail landscape all over the world, but really people are shopping online. You hear about in-store, first come, first serve a little bit more now. But as with everywhere, it really shifted online. I think we're in a quiet spell in terms of releases early in the year. I don't know if that's to do with shipping containers and cargo ships, but I feel like they're giving us a little bit of a break, and we'll see if things pick up. But I know personally, I'm enjoying the little downtime in terms of releases. At least that's the vibe I'm getting. I'm trying to chill at least the beginning of the year, and I get the feeling that people are a little bit worn out and they kind of could use a break. But then again, you see a hot release and everyone's in the chat, how we getting it, who's helping each other out. So I don't think it's slowing down or anything like that.
When you're in a chat group like we're in as well, it's kind of hard to ignore what's coming out. There's always somebody firing out the new or the latest, or we're pretty blessed to someone's willing to look out for you, or whenever you see something in a store, you've got 30 people sending it to the chat. So, but like John said, I think it seems like it's slowing down a bit, but I think we're all kind of slowing down from Christmas just passed, and I think once the year ends and everybody's doing their top 10 pickups, and you actually look at what you've accumulated over the year, I think the last 2 years, it's almost daunting to see when you get it all together and you see how much you've actually bought. And then, if you start doing the math on what each pair costs, I know personally, like the New Year's resolutions we all make, I'm trying to look at quality over quantity as the years go on. So, I mean, that may not last past January, but it's definitely... like with all of the slowdowns, and like John said, with the shipping containers backlogging and all those emails that have gone out about certain stores aren't going to get, new drops or new shipments. I've yet to see that. I'm seeing, like the Cool Grays are hitting the stores around here. The Red Thunders dropped today, and in store. So, but I don't know. I mean, the quantity could be lower, but like I said, I'm trying to tone it down as well, or we're gonna bury ourselves in shoeboxes soon enough.
Well, our release here are pretty shit from start, and especially with this COVID around, it made it even worse. Because we actually get the leftovers from Europe, so that's where our stock comes from.
That's where ours comes from as well. When we order from Nike.com or Nike.ca, it ships from the Netherlands. So I mean, they must be getting a ton. I don't know, but everything's coming from over there. I don't know how logistically that makes sense. Both of our countries you think would be big enough to sustain, our own warehouse, but however they're doing it, it always seems to be coming from over there as well. So I don't know if that's just for paperwork reasons or what, but
yeah, exactly. It makes you think though. It makes you think with all that amount, and then it comes from there, and then you're like, hang on, there's got to be some different problem there when you're not getting enough
it's
stock.
Kind of a kick in the teeth.
Yeah,
it's kind of a kick in the teeth. You're like, well, we don't matter. Like you see sneakers dropping all the time, and they're getting all this stuff, and we're just like, okay, like whatever.
Well, we don't even have the sneakers app, and I don't even remember, Andrew. Maybe you can remind me, Andy, if we didn't have a website more than 5 years ago, Nike, right?
I bet you it was 2 years ago.
Yeah, it feels really.
I want to say if it wasn't at the beginning of the pandemic, it was shortly before that, because I remember them launching it, and I remember it was just a blank website forever. Like it was like, oh, sneakers coming, and we all thought we were actually getting the app, and then it dropped, and it was like a subset of Nike.ca, where it was literally just another page, and it's kind of stupid because when you go on Nike.ca, it shows, dropping on sneakers, and then it takes you to a totally different website. Now, if that's to regulate botting, or
it is.
Maybe they have a different, way of filtering out things, but it sucks. It sucks because it doesn't seem any different. And honestly, I don't think I've hit on sneakers. I don't think I've hit on the Nike website. I can't even tell you a release that I've hit on Nike, to be honest with you.
You see over here,
it's tough.
they used to do sorry, John. They used to do copped online, but then they had to fight the bots, so they made it a raffle, right? And now I think they're having problems with the raffle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They can't stop it.
Yeah, even the bots do the raffles. I just wanted to say about the cool grades, because even that was messed up, because we got all the grade school and the preschool first, and then it was later. I think that was probably the case in a lot of regions. I think it was like messed up, but I think we got used to that, right? Because it would be during the last 2 years, it was kind of be like one shop would have a pair show up, and it'd be a month later it'd show up at another shop, and shops would get it before Nike. It was weird. Like, I always go back to the example of those Air Trainers, the Saquon Barkleys. I got a pair from a shop, and then they canceled their release, and like it was all messed up, and like no one still has that shoe. I don't know what happened, if it was a limited release, but they botched it or whatever. So I think this whole world of random releases, back in the day, everyone liked how it was regional, and it'd be like show up on the shelf and you didn't know. I feel like it's happening, not intentionally. I feel like it's happening because of the logistics issue. And it's like, oh, this site dropped it. And then it's like one site drops it, and then the other site is like, oh yeah, we're waiting for our shipment. So it's kind of like old school vibes unintentionally.
I wonder though if it is intentional, because it's almost like giving false hope. Like how many times have we seen livestock's like, oh, we're dropping the cool grades, and then the next week it's capsule, and like and then it's Foot Locker's got them, and then but nobody gets them. Like, you know what I mean? Like everybody's dropping them, but nobody's getting them, and it's crazy. It's like, all right, there's another chance, there's another one coming up, and it's confusing. I feel like I'm always looking around. It's like when you're entering in those online raffles or those IG raffles, you're like, oh, tag 3 friends, share us to your story. I've given up.
Yeah,
give up on that.
I don't even bother anymore.
Yeah.
It'd be cool to think that somehow, like, some factors beyond the brands and the store's control make the game better just by, like, I don't know how COVID could do it, but like this is just one example example. I can't think of any others, but like maybe it's just like chance and luck and just the way the world works is like the sneaker game gets better and like gets stronger and gets more community as opposed to all the stuff that I'm hoping, wishful thinking, but that's just one example, you know. Like there are shops, at least in Toronto and in Canada, that do put stuff on shelves now. And then like back like they did a few years ago, and it'd be like first come and get them, and because they know people aren't at work, so they're not around the corner, so they can't rush in. They have to go all the way from their house, which may be far. Some people are at work, but it kind of gets that kind of excitement.
Now my champs in Barrie, they'll get stock in and they won't put it on the shelf. You just have to go and ask them, and then you're asking, and then they're going in the back and getting it. And it seems to me that it's partly to do with if they told people, all right, it's dropping this day, this time we're going to have the same problem we had in the past, where you're going to have a rush of people, or you're going to get a big lineup, and that's obviously against, you know, what the government wants us to do. They don't want us all huddling in a line. So I could see why they're doing it, but I mean, you got to be, I feel like in partly it's going back to the way it used to be, where you've got to be persistent, you've got to dig, and you actually have to go to the store on release day if you really want a shoe to see if it did come in. But I mean, I think we're all trained now to online shop and to look for those drops and enter those raffles, that a lot of the times it's the resellers that are going in and being that persistent, because they're actually, there's money to be earned for them.
Yeah, which is the problem. Which is the problem these days.
When you're a collector. Yeah, and I know that there's a few spots that I have a feeling a lot of their stock just goes to resellers due to the, you know, the relationship they have. Now that's another good point, and a lesson to be learned is relationships are key in sneakers. Yes. If you are in there chatting at your local spot, if you're chatting with your buddies, and I mentioned this on the last pod too, Anthony, is that if you connect with people, you've got people looking out for you. And what John's saying is, I think this can better the community, because it's connecting people, making them kind of help each other out, because we know how sparse the stock can be, and we know how many people are out there trying to scoop it for resale. So I mean, like, if you do love it, then you put in that little bit of work, be polite and be friendly and help people out, and go to the stores and chat it up within your local spot. You know, you don't, if they, and now I get DMs and phone calls from my spot. You want this? You want, like, I could have picked up the Thunder 4s today, but I chose not to.
But you love your 4s.
Yeah, I like them. But I'm trying to like cool it. I've made a few purchases lately at the end of the year. And I'm happy with that. Like I said, I want to keep the quality high. Not saying that the Red Thunders aren't quality, but I would rather the infrared 4s. And then with it being the 35th anniversary of the Air Max 1, John and I are both big ID fans. The Nike by You, we love cooking up our own designs. And John's planted a seed in my head that we might get an unlocked AM1 this year because it is the anniversary. Yeah, so I'm just saving for that, man. I'm gonna have my own little shop of size 10s over here of all my own creations.
You guys gotta show me what you guys came up with.
I don't know.
What? I have some Air Max ones from the last time, and they had good options. But not the last time, like 2 times ago, because the last time they kind of had, you know, sometimes they have the ID, the by you, and then they kind of give you the minimum, and then sometimes like Andy said, the unlocked. That's when the unlocked. I think now unlocked, is where they really give you what you want. Sort of.
We don't really have them. We don't have them that far yet over here in Australia, but we can choose the colors and all that. But we haven't gone for the other things yet. We're slow on everything.
It'll slip by you, though. It'll slip by you. You won't even know that. You got to look, because sometimes it'll say like Nike by You, designed by this person, and they'll give you like an example of a shoe to kind of give you inspiration, and then it slips in right beside it, unlocked, and that's when they start adding different quality leathers. So like this is like a GR Air Force One, but it was unlocked, so it's reflective. It has like a twill toe box. You know, like the little aglet or whatever you want to call it. It's funny that they're not putting it on the bottom anymore. They're putting it in the middle.
On the top, in the middle.
but then like they did the Pendleton unlock. So it's
That's
the
nice.
Pendleton wool and everything like that. And a lot of the times when they do that, they give you little options, like even like the thread pattern. So that this one has like a jump stitch thread on the toe box. It has like a bit of frill leather around the eye stay. And one of my favorites was when they did the Safari. I have a pair of Air Force One Safaris, and it's got that Safari print. And that's when you can really have some fun, because Safaris they're always fun. And if you look at any big collab, it's got Safari or elephant print, like it's got some kind of animal print on it. And that's when you can really get creative and you know, make what you want, right? Like, don't, you know, the Atmos Air Max 1s are out of hand. That's super crazy now. It's so expensive. And if you can make, you know, take cues of what you like about that shoe and make it on your own shoe, then like it should be even better in my mind, because it's what you actually want, and it's not $1,000. Like, holy.
I'm glad you mentioned Air Max once, because I think we saw, I don't know if it's a rumor, but those Travises may be coming. I think they're just sitting on them, and they're probably going to say, okay, it's time. It's been enough time. People have short-term memories. It's time to release the Travis. But I think, you know, we're going to see the Air Max 1 push for sure. There's no reason why they shouldn't. It's a classic silhouette. OGs like it. New people maybe don't know about it, and that's a huge opportunity. But I want to show off a couple of my favorite IDs. This is a Will Leather Goods ID.
Wow, that is nice.
So they use it. Yeah, so like Pendleton, which is a wool company, they go to Will Leather Goods, and they do this like real legit high quality leather. And so this is one of my favorites. But the craziest one, the ID I ever had. So everyone knows the Air Max 1 Fly Knits, which for some reason they just stopped making. I don't know why. It was a great shoe, super comfy. But they did IDs of Fly Knit Air Max 1s, and I did these. So these never came out.
The blue version,
if you came out with these, an OG, why would you not come out with these? So
that's a good question.
idea to do. Switch the color. It was a no-brainer. Sometimes those IDs are the easiest, right? You just take a OG color, like, you know, you take an Air Max 1 and you put it on an Air Force 1 color. People do that all the time, and we try and do that in the group. We try and do you know, classic dunks and remake them, and they block you most of the time. They mess up the box. They won't give you the materials you want, but sometimes they'll give you what you want, and you just gotta take advantage. At least that's what I do. So I'm hoping.
Yeah, like Faraz, Laced Heat on Instagram, he's in our group, and he redid the Biotech dunks in an ID, and it was almost spot on. Like, there was a bit of a shade difference, I think, on the purple, but if you were to dip over to his Instagram page, he posted a picture of them, and like, that's just a great example of how you can take a shoe that you wanted, or a grail, or a super expensive shoe, and then just create it yourself. And I know, like, and if you think about it, here's another thing, and this is the proof. So guys like Kickz, who's a reseller online, he's constantly selling IDs. And if you look on Goat and StockX, there's Nike IDs up for sale, DS IDs. So like, so that's proof that people were willing to pay a resale, or the market is dictating that the IDs are valued at the same level. Now, they're not going to have like John did the anniversary blue ID, because they're obviously going to want you to go towards the OG. But, you know, if you make a good hit, or a good pair, like the Levi's IDs that were on there for a while, and a lot of the Safaris, they're reselling them on those platforms. So, and like, you know, Gusto Ninja, who was recently on John's pod, same deal. Those guys are reselling sneakers made by customers. If that's not motivation to try whipping up your own design, I don't know what is, because it's like not even an eighth of the cost. You could buy a hype shoe, and then, you know what? I have
you sign it on your own.
The one pair of Safaris that I made up, they were inspired by the salmon ladder dunks. So the toe was like kind of like this wavy pattern, and they were pink and black, but I went with like the gray The toe is completely solid, and then it has the Tiffany swoosh. But I've been hit up when I wear those or I post them. I get hit up all the time about where did you get those or can I buy those? And it's like, oh man, it's an ID. Like, get creative, because trust me, sometimes you'll surprise yourself. And the renders
what you can come up with,
yeah, those renders that they show you before you buy it, a lot of the times are really accurate to what they look like in hand. So, you know, slight differences, but with those Safari Air Force Ones, they exceeded what I thought I was getting. I was pumped when I got them in hand, and that's a lot of the fun too. You wait a month and you get them, and you're like, oh, this is crazy.
Yeah, it is a month with the ID, with the Nike ID.
Yeah, yeah, we're pretty heavy on that. Oh, get a little crazy ID and stuff sometimes, but
I was gonna say
you can return them. We probably should say this, but John and our buddy Manny, they'll either resell them or they'll return them to Nike, and Nike just takes them back. So.
No resell on my designs, just selling them, helping friends out. But those dunks seem to be popping up over and over. So
yeah,
Nike takes them back.
They've got crazy lineup. They got crazy lineup releasing this year.
But they they give you your money back, so you can.
Yeah, that's an ID.
Yeah.
That's an ID dunk based off the Homer dunk. I just kind of did my own version of the Homer, but like same vibe, man. Like you can get crazy on there, man.
I was gonna say, have they leaked?
By you, but it's not.
I was gonna ask, have they leaked anything for the Air Max anniversary this year? Because they usually do, right?
They have.
Oh, those six, maybe six. Is that
they did a render. I heard that I heard a long time ago, and I'm in an Air Max group, Air Max One group, and I heard, I'd say 2 months ago, that the Air Max hemp crepes or crepes, crepe or crap, I don't even know. I think it's crap. It's got two E's though.
Yeah,
they're supposed to be released, and that's a pair that like the colorway is bang on, and then whenever they start playing with materials like that, I love it. The hemp dunks are my favorite pair of dunks that I own, and it's just different. Like it's just a different feel and a different material, and I'm excited for those. I believe I saw, what were the white safaris called, John? I think those were on there too. It was,
I saw the.
It was one of the pairs that were on the the Masters Air Max One.
The Master,
there was
the
one
Masters,
panel on there that nobody knew what it was, and it was a GR Safari.
I don't know.
I heard that was supposed to re-release.
I just saw that denim-y one. That denim looked like one, and the other ones didn't. The crep one, I think they leaked a real picture, like it looked real, and that's totally up your alley. But it's not up most people's alley. But you know it's going to be hype, and everyone's going to want it, even though like it's hard to rock for most
I think
people,
so
that's just how the hype goes.
I think by
I hope so. I hope no one likes it. I want it. I'll take two.
I think by next year we will end up getting all those big bubbles as well. The big bubble Air Max.
Yeah.
Oh right, yeah. They're gonna do that. Yeah. I don't think.
I'm excited for the Bayou. I think that, like John said a while ago, he thinks that they put the Air Max One in the vault for a little while, and that's why if you look around, you can't find an Air Max One anywhere for like you can't find an Air Max One period. They haven't dropped them in a very long time. So
yeah, those anniversaries from 2017, they reissued, right? They did like the retro. They did the 2000, and they did like a second round. Those second round were going for retail. You couldn't get rid of them, and now of course they're 500. But so everything has gone up. There's few shoes that haven't, but yeah, I think those big bubbles, I think those are going to be more for the runner heads, the Air Max heads. I feel like we're going to be able to get those. It's going to be the OGs. It's going to be weird, the cool colorways, the weird materials. Those ones are going to fly. And then it's going to be the collab type vibes. And then hopefully we'll get left with some of that OG.
It's going to be the new style, I think.
Said that though, hey John? How many times have we said that this is for the heads, like the Jordan 2 off-white? Like this is for the two heads. No one's gonna want them, and then they. That's
off-white. Even real. I'd love to see a pair of 2 lows in an OG colorway. I mean, I guess everyone's on 2 now, so it's too late. No one's getting those, but I mean, come on, like, nobody likes.
They actually.
I don't even like 2.
didn't Rushy share it in the group today that a shop in Vancouver was selling those? They were doing their release for the
Off-white,
off-white
yeah, the
twos.
black ones. But
I
so,
wonder
yeah,
how
maybe
much
there's-
how they take care
Well,
of that.
yeah. I
That
guess it's the same shipping type of
delayed
delay.
shipping,
logistics,
man. Yeah. And they had both. They had the red one, they had the white and red and the black. I went on their Instagram account just to check in and see if it was pickup only. And they had both pairs on the reels. So
Yeah.
I mean, to reiterate about the delay in shipment and production, it's like, oof. Like John's got SNEAKERDADS fitted hats that have been ordered forever, and he got
Almost
word
6
that
months.
they're sitting on a barge somewhere too. So it's like,
Yeah, that's
exciting.
talking about the merchants and that, man. I'm having problem myself here in Australia because of the COVID situation.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess I can't do nothing about it. Just wait, you know what I mean? But again, it is what it is. So I'll just move
Yeah.
on, and there's a time.
Yeah.
There'll be a right time for it. But yeah, let's talk about your snapback. Your thing with the snapback. How did you get into it?
wow, the fitted hats.
Yeah.
And it's funny because with my brand, I made some snapbacks, like, let's say a year and a half ago, maybe just maybe about a year ago. And by the time I got them in hand, everything had switched to fitteds. And there's this giant wave. Like, I might as well show you. I got them sitting here. So I did snapbacks for my brand to celebrate like the inaugural season. And as soon as I got them in hand, nobody wanted a snapback. Everybody was talking about fitted hats. Now, where the craze came from, partly I feel why there was a big switch was sneakers were just getting so unattainable, and there are all these cool designs for hats. And I feel, and I know John feels the same way, that hats and sneakers are connected. Like, you wear shoes as a form of expression. It's like art for your feet. You kind of show your style. You pair with things, and I've always been a firm believer that, like, I don't need to spend a bunch of money on my clothes. I don't need to rock designer. And I'll just throw on a sick pair of shoes, and that speaks volumes. Like, everybody's looking at your shoes anyway. And with hats, it's the exact same thing. Like, there's so much fine detail. There's so much, like a story going along with them, just like sneakers. There's storytelling with hats. And that's how I got captivated by it. It's just, there's these cool, like, so Hat Club did an Ox Pack. And what it was they based hat designs off of like classic hip hop albums. So they had the Graduation by Kanye. They had the Chronic by Dre, the Kid Cudi. And what they did was they had the team logo from whatever city the person was from. So this is the Chronic. So it's in LA, done in the green, just like the Chronic album. They did the Chicago Cubs in the brown, like the Graduation album from Kanye. And it was like, I was blown away. I was like, man, I wanted all of them. And I was hitting on them. I was going and they were dropping and I was getting them. And I had that same feeling that I got when I hit on a sneaker raffle. And I was like, I was hooked, man. It was the same way, because I wasn't, you get excited for a shoe. You don't always get it. Never mind that. You barely ever get it. You're lucky to get one. And hats gave me that, like, why am I doing this? Why am I putting myself through this? I could get a hat. And we're lucky we have some shops in Canada. So one that John and I are really big on is still doing it, still.ca on Instagram. And they're putting out bangers, and they're from Canada, and they're telling stories, and they're doing really crazy stuff. This is a still hat. So it's like,
Nice.
And then you've got the under visor is a different color. They've got little add-ons. This is a nice brown and pink, and they did like this cherry blossom design on it. And it did the same thing for me, where I was like, man, I love that. And then what it ended up doing for me was I was pairing them with sneakers that I had just sitting that I really wasn't, wearing that often. And it made like this new life for sneakers. And it brought me in an industry that I wasn't spending $200, $300, $400. I was spending $55 and, $70 on a hat. and getting that same joy that I was getting from sneakers. So, and then like anything, it started to gain hype and gain traction. And with the world becoming so much smaller because of COVID, it just spread like wildfire. Like everybody's, you know, and I don't know if I'm just being small-minded here because what I'm looking at and what I'm seeing, but I feel, and John, speak on this if you can, but I feel like fitted hats have just gone on a huge rise.
Yeah, it has.
Absolutely.
It has.
And they've always been part of the culture. I mean, streetwear, whether it's you know, it's a fitted hat, a pair of Mitchell and Ness shorts, Averex jacket. It could be anything, right? It could be anything. And,
could be from the t-shirt, to the jacket, to the socks.
I mean, it used to be when we were kids, it was those spray painted t-shirts, like, you know, it was graffiti, and it was you'd maybe pick it up on a boardwalk somewhere, but it was the same vibe.
That's funny how you brought the graffiti up, because that's how I'm getting my actual with my clothing and everything, because I used to love graffiti. I used to do it myself when I was younger, and I kind of stopped after I got older and had a kid, and, you know, moved on to the thing. And now
couldn't run away as fast.
And then all that things now that I love is what I'm actually doing with the community and putting it out there.
That's awesome, bro. I noticed that too.
I think the hats are just another example, but I actually think the runway, I mean, in the States, in places like New York, hats are huge. They always have been. They have blown up even more now. I think that's fair to say. But I think in places like Canada, Toronto, I think there's a huge runway. What Andy said is a good point about people getting tired of trying to cop sneakers. Hats are cheaper. And, you know, there's so much storytelling in sneakers, right? You get a collab, and it's like, you know, I don't know, like the A6 Gel Light 3 Koi, and it's like a fish, and you got the thing, or like they another A6. I'm just thinking of a random shoe, but they have, like, you know, it comes with the chopsticks, and it comes in the box, and everything like means something, and people love that stuff. And sometimes it gets tired, right? When you have like the Jordan 1 Rookie of the Year, it's like, oh, Michael Jordan wore that jacket, or like the Letterman.
It's been a cycle in sneakers for sure.
Yeah, they're tired, and it happens in hats too.
Yeah, it does.
Everything they run under stories. I wanted to show a couple examples. This is another Canadian brand, Anthem. So this one's simple. This is a Jay's hat. This is just watermelon, as far as I know. It's just green. So it's watermelon. You don't have to tell another story. But this is my fitteds. This is a U.S. brand, and they did this. They do a lot of book.
I like that logo.
Yeah, it's a Montreal team, a defunct team. They moved, but these guys do hooks to books a lot, and it's cool because it's, you know, it's literature, and you could say like it's intelligent, maybe not, maybe it's just a hat, but like this is actually connected to a book by Roald Dahl called The Witches, and it's cool because I show this to my son. I'm like, he's like, I know that book, and like, you know, so some of it is meaning, some of it doesn't, just like sneakers. It's cool when there is, but I think the sneaker community, a lot of people sort of maybe are tired, and it's hard to find a good story. We had the Amon Manier 3s this year, great storytelling, and people loved it, and it just makes it that.
No, I think what happened is it's not that it's not the actual culture, it's the people that runs the community has forgotten about it and didn't actually bring it back out to where they're supposed to share it with the community, right? And they're not giving a good example to actually go that path. They showed as wrong sample to go on the other way, right? And that's what we're missing in the sneaker community.
Yeah, and it's cool to have a shoe that's just fire just because of the colorway. It doesn't have to have a story. I mean, what is an Air Max 1 OG? What is? I don't know. Is there a story behind this? I don't think there was a story in '87.
Yeah,
they just picked glue.
They based it off of the
bubble,
station, right?
Yeah.
Oh, right, the bubble and everything. But I mean, like, just the color, right? I mean, if you came out with this in green, oh, they did that. They did it in every color, so it's been done. But you don't need a story. There's no story if you come out with this in orange. Right? They did that, right? There's no story. It's just, but it's still fire, right? I mean, there's always a story with the designer, yeah, but we don't hear that.
Yeah, and the beauty with hats is that you're repping your city, right?
Like
we get to and you're representing something. It's not the face of the hat is not a swoosh. It's not, you know, the New Air logo now they're going tonal. You can't even see the logos on them anymore. It's not about wearing a New Era. It's about representing your team, or
your passion.
if you're doing your own brand, you're representing your brand, right? And that's, you ask a player, you know, an athlete, you say, you know, they say it's not about the name on the back, it's about the name on the front. And in full circle, like hats, it's not necessarily about the brand. Whereas, I mean, it is. New Era is pretty much the GOAT and the Nike of the hat world, but you're not buying a New Era hat. You're buying a Toronto Blue Jays New Era hat, or you're buying a SNEAKERDADS New Era hat. So you're choosing whether or not to, you know, support a brand, or you're supporting a team. And there's so many ways to look at it beyond just buying a Jordan 1, you know.
Not everything comes with the branded.
Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you make a Cubs hat, the Cubs have to approve it, right?
Yeah.
So the Cubs actually will see, someone at the Cubs will see this and say, do we want this? And what you know, Andy is both credit and to blame for me getting really into hats. I've always had hats, but now I'm way serious. But I'm glad he did, because you know, I made hats of my own, and you know, we're having a good time with it. But the cool thing is that, you know, they don't really do with sneakers. If you look at this side patch, this is 62 All-Star game, and it has to coincide usually with the logo, and there's so much history. Like the logo has to tie with this, and you could really get deep with it, and we want to get deep with it, and there's just like history, and you could, you know, and the real hardcore hat heads, I think by necessity of all these logos, way more than sneakers, they have to be that much more hardcore than even the most hardcore sneakerheads. I probably shouldn't compare the two, but there's just so much, there's so many of these logos, and there's so much history. It's like, oh, they wore that for a half a season, and then they had to stop because of the war, and then they like, oh, it's like,
like, what? For sure. It's a history lesson, just in the same right. Because no matter what you say, no matter what you do, you look at it, you're like, oh, that's a Jays logo. Well, what does this mean? Well, to us, this is when the Jays won the 92 World Series. Quite a few of us can remember when that happened. And it brings you to a place in time. Just the same way when you hear a song, you're like, I remember where I was when I heard that. Or, oh, I remember bumping this in high school. Or you have a story that a hat can have a connection just the same way. You know, and
as a sneaker.
The same way as a sneaker,
just like
right?
a sneaker, right? Dunk on.
Yeah. What's up, everyone? This is Dr. Lacekickz. Just wanted to let you know this is the part 1. Part 2 will be coming in next week. I want to give a shout out to everyone in Canada, Australia, and you know, I can't forget about my motherland, Philippines. Listen, guys, I'm still looking for people that wants to come in. You know, Filipinos, the Filipino community out there. If you guys want to come into my podcast, you're more welcome to. Just hit me up. Again, guys, this, you know, we can talk about everything, just everything. You know, about basketball, you know, music, to anything. You know, come in, have a guest, and have fun with this. Anyway, much love to everyone. Stay safe. Again, thank you all for listening. And for people out there, stay safe. Much love from Dr. Lacekickz.